Hi, welcome back to my garden. Today I wanted to show you one of our latest garden projects, which is this new crevice garden. Before I go on, I need to talk about the elephant in the room, which isn't the humpback whale shaped stump. It's actually the heat pump here. So when we had it put in a couple years ago, basically we learned that we couldn't really cover it or plant anything in front of it. And because it's a pretty prominent location, it's just to the right of our front door, it kind of stands out. So the thought was to create something that stands out even more, that can kind of draw attention from it. And I feel like it works pretty well, because when you come here, you definitely notice like the humpback whale first, and then, you know, the concrete, all the succulents and stuff. It definitely pulls focus. And now, why a crevice garden? Well, we live in a rainforest, so it's a temperate rainforest. We're on Vancouver Island, which is in Western Canada. And it rains a lot, especially in winter. And most of these plants don't really like that. However, there are some native succulents, which I have included, and I'll show you in a minute. So basically the idea is to be able to keep the crown of the plant, like kind of the root ball, the top of it, like dry the whole time. And then the roots can go like pretty deep and get the moisture that they need. But being able to keep the crown from rotting means that the plant can kind of survive. It doesn't get that cold here, but the winters are wet. So yeah, that can definitely do it. And then as far as the concrete, we actually did a project out back kind of in late winter or early spring, where we took up a big concrete pad, and then rather than paying to get rid of it, we thought we would use it. And so we put together like a flagstone style pathway, and then I decided to bring the rest around here to use for the crevice garden. Concrete is also slightly alkaline, which most of these succulents prefer. Our native soil is kind of acidic. The concrete also works as a heat sink. So for a lot of the plants that are kind of like marginal hardiness, it may just make the difference between them like surviving or not, because it will soak up the sun all day. It's south facing. The sun's actually coming out now, so it's probably looking pretty good. But yeah, so it's south facing, so the concrete can warm up all day and then like kind of retain that heat at night. I also was kind of inspired by the whale to make it look almost like it's like splashing out of the water doing like a breach, and then like the concrete looks almost like the waves that are created by that, or like the splash. And then I decided to like lean into that like oceany theme. So with a lot of the planting, I chose succulents that look, I don't know, like they could live on the ocean floor almost. Also leaning into like kind of a splash look are these 3 yuccas. So all 3 of these are hardy to zone 7. So as long as they can stay pretty dry in winter, they should be fine temperature-wise here. I used a couple different kinds of rocks for top dressing. So I used the lava rock to create kind of like a ribbon look. So starting on this side, and then it kind of goes all the way to the back, under the big pebbles, and then kind of to finish off at the other end over there. Some broken terracotta and bricks. I feel like they kind of look almost like the bouldery size of the lava rock. This boulder was a total pain to bring up, because I only really had a dolly to use, but ultimately I wanted something to anchor it on this side that wasn't concrete, which I kind of feel like makes the concrete look a little bit more natural as well. And then mostly cuttings and stuff, because the crevices were so narrow that you couldn't like really plant. So a lot of these are just like the tops that I cut off succulents that I plugged in, and then they've done really well. This is one of the native sedums. So this is Sedum spathifolium. And then the other one, which is up here, is Sedum oregonium, or like Oregon stonecrop. And they look kind of similar this time of year, but in winter their colors are completely different. The Oregon one goes bright red, and then the other one is kind of like bluey silver. So the other top dressing I did is like rainbow rock, and I did 2 forms. I did like the little pebbles, and then I did this one here, which is like a little more kind of gravelly, jagged shapes. But I thought the colors worked really well with like the Echeveria in particular, which is kind of like purpley. Yeah, I just thought that it paired really nicely. There's a place called Oyster Bay that's like an hour from here. So oysters are abundant around here, so I put some of those in too. Also a sand dollar, which I got on one of the beaches near here. When they're bleached white like that, they're dead, so it's kind of safe to collect them. If they still look sandy, then they might still be alive. And this is our native prickly pear, which is kind of like surprising, or at least it was before I found out that we had one. But yeah, it's not something I would associate with like a rainforesty place in Canada, but this is Opuntia fragilis, and the variety is Nanus. It was collected, not by me, I bought it, but it was like the guy who found it collected it from a place called Nanus Bay. These are all little like leaf cuttings, so it's basically just like leaves at the start of the season. And now they all have like little rosettes forming. And some of these ones are marginal temperature-wise, but they're so easy to propagate that I can risk experimenting with a few because I can always make more. And there's like a crab claw. I also wedged that stick because I feel like whenever you're playing in the rocks as a kid at the beach, there's always like a stick that you want, and it's like so jammed in there that you can't get it out. So I felt like the garden needed that element as well. There's a spider napping on the San Pedro. This one I just left in the pot because I'll just take it in for the winter. So these succulents over here, there was room where I could plant like the whole like base with a root ball, but then I cut the tips off, and then that's what I used in the crevice over on this side. And they've obviously rooted because they've gotten like a lot bigger. So another thing I thought about was how I wanted it to tie in with like the rest of the front of the house. So if I show you over on this side, I already had some like shrubs and things planted here that I didn't really want to remove. But this side's also pretty dry and sunny, so I added some of the same like top dressing rocks and some of the like driftwood type look. So I think although they're like, you know, like sisters, not twins, like they kind of like seem like they go together. There's like a little hint of a crevice garden here too. So when you see them all together, I feel like they still look pretty good. Anyway, thanks for coming along for the crevice garden tour. I'll keep you posted on how it does, especially over winter. We are expecting kind of like a cool and wet one, so it'll really put it to the test. But yeah, thanks for coming along today, and I'll catch you next time.